Hello World Doll Day friends, this is Michael Canadas with the Carmel Doll Shop and the Grovian Doll Museum. We are back at the Susan and Lou Nunez collection, and today we are going to share some magical automatons from their vast collection. So in order to really share with all of you their automaton collection, the only way we can really do it is break it down into categories. So today we're going to focus on dancers, the art of dance. Now it's interesting that the golden age of automaton also ultimately became the golden age of ballet. In the centuries before, yes, it was popular, but it wasn't popular with what we would call today popular culture. So the ballet became something that everyone could go to and aspire to and train. In the centuries before, it was for royalty and the elite. So automaton makers always reflected what was going on in, let's just say, the streets, what was happening. So here we have a wonderful selection of dancers. But I think if we're going to do this, we have to start with, if you're going to be a dancer, you have to be trained. And I always like to work with former dancers because the thing about doing a project with them is they have discipline and they can work through the pain. And that comes from the training. So the first piece we're going to look at is by the firm Roullet and Decamps, and this is the dance instructor. So I am going to slip over here because, interesting, most of the automatons, they will have their mechanism on this side. So what we have here is a Roullet and Decamps piece. One thing is to be a cheater, to know very quickly who the maker is. This maker, not all the time, but most of the time, if they have a box, the edge will be cut in this, like this. It won't come to a point, or it won't be rounded. So that you can do as an easy, quick identification. So I have wound this up, and I'm going to let you see the dance instructor who is dressed as Madame Chanel, and she's getting the rhythm for the dancer. And occasionally she'll spin, but maybe I'm going to give her a little help with that because she hasn't danced for a while. There, now she's warmed up. But this company used various heads, but mostly the classic Jumeau faces. And this we would know as collectors as tête Jumeaus. But what's very, very unique about this piece is this has, without a doubt, this is the smallest Jumeau head that I feel that was ever produced. She's elongated because it's meant to be a dancer, but if this were on an all bisque, it would probably be a 5.5-inch doll, which would be really small. So we're gonna let them play this out for you because now she's warmed up and she's doing her proper turns. And look at how the legs are on it's on a up and down pole, but you can see that the legs are loose so that it gives the effect of movement. Next, we're going to look at another dancer. Now you might say, oh, she's not in the upright dancing position. However, she is wearing a short skirt. And in the 19th century, this would be totally scandalous. And that is part of the success of ballet in the 19th century. A matter of fact that no opera could be shown without a ballet. So composers always had to put a ballet in it because everyone wanted to see, particularly the gentlemen, the ladies' legs. So here we have a gypsy dancer, and this is by the firm of Leopold Lambert. Now another thing, as a little quick ID, not all the time, but you can see with Leopold Lambert, they used a cut velvet many times as the covering of their bases. And another thing that they did that was really nice is their keys, which I'll show you, is connected to the box. And that makes it really great. You never lose the key. And most of the time the boxes are actually metal, which actually works really well with the music. So we're going to give her a go. And this is a classic Jumeau head. And we can say, probably by the head, we can date this into the 1890s. And this firm is known for a very strong mechanism. The next piece we're going to share with you, I have seen this in the Nunez collection for quite a few years, and I've never seen her work. So this was really a treat for us to get to see her in operation. Now, it is a little different than the pieces that we've looked at so far because it has just a platform, which this means that the mechanism to make this piece work is all in the body. And if you look at the piece, she's not rotund and it isn't below. So all of this is in the chest, which I think is pretty remarkable. So I'm going to let you see her work, which is the mechanism's right here. And I'm going to attribute this to Lambert again because we've got the key that's part of the body, and that seemed to be something that they did. On the bottom of the base there is a label for the airs, which is the song, but it is illegible. And we're going to attribute this head to Gaultier. They were one of the suppliers to the automaton makers, as well as Jumeau. And I do think that we have to give all of the automaton makers credit that if they used an accessory like this hand-painted tambourine and they added bells or spangles to it, they could actually get, in a way, another movement without much effort. And I think we should give her a little more power because it's good for them to, the more you operate them, the better. And just so you know, usually you'll have one arm that has some form of movement, but not two. Sometimes you have two, but mostly it'll be just one. So now we're going to look at a Roullet and Decamps classic 1890s ballerina. And these I always love. I just think they're so of the time and of the period. Again, it's a classic Jumeau head, and it's probably a size 1 head. But I'm not going to go in and look for sure because, you know, you don't want to over pull and tug at these delicate springs and mechanisms. But here we have a classic ballerina, and I will tell you again. Notice the cut off here on the box. Plain velvet. You can have the velvet in red, sometimes in gold. Now she's a temperamental ballerina. And I'm going to give her a leg up because she's sticking there, but then she'll, come on. But you can see it's really an enchanting piece. And when we have a minute, we're going to go in and something's catching, and we will rectify that. But totally original clothing, classic of this company. And I love this lace. And I can tell you that this lace, which I'm very familiar with, that they used on their automaton, I also know that the House of Worth also used this exact lace. When this was new, this was not ecru. This was bright white. But as time goes, it mellows, and I think it's mellowed beautifully. So this is one I think that's very appealing to collectors, and I've known a few ballet dancers that have actually collected these as well. So we have now another, a gypsy dancer. And it could be a gypsy dancer, or it could be the latest rage in the 1880s. In the 1880s, there was an opera that came out at the Opera Comique, and that was the opera Carmen. And it is the most successful opera of all time as far as performances. So there was a rage for all things Spanish and all things Carmen. And I think for a lot of women, the story of Carmen, it was very inspirational because Carmen treats men the way men treat women. So that started a whole sensation. So let's see if we've got any music from Bizet's Carmen in her. No Bizet's Carmen there. Sometimes you'll get a little sampling of that, but notice the box, which was like the other boxes we've looked at from this firm. Probably a size 2 Jumeau head, but fantastic clothing, original condition. It looks like a costume that Emma Calvé, who is the leading Carmen of the time, would have worn. And very, I think, Spanish coloration with the gold and red and stripes and whatnot. But I think it's a genius of costuming. So now we have a very unique piece in the Nunez collection. And it is a dancer. And I'm making that determination by, again, we've got the legs exposed, but these don't have any stockings on, which is really, really shocking. I believe that if you looked in a catalog of Leopold Lambert, the maker, you would see that this would have been known as a Creole lady, meaning a mixed-race person from Louisiana. They did a whole series of these, but this is actually a dancer that happens to just be Creole. An amazing character face, and we can really only guess who the maker is, but I would say it's probably Jumeau, and I think it's the only piece on the table that has an open mouth, and it's got quite a prominent open mouth with teeth. And I will turn it so our camera man can see that. really wonderful articulated fingers, beautifully modeled. But it's the only piece on the table that we can identify the music, that I can identify. So we have La Donna Mobile from Giuseppe Verdi's Rigoletto. Which actually that aria is slightly risque, and I think that this dancer is a little bit risque, showing her legs. Isn't that fun? Well, doll friends, I hope you enjoyed this sampling of these amazing dancers from the Susan and Lou Nunez collection. Bye-bye, doll friends. Remember to like, subscribe, and hit that notification button.